Hello. Thank you for trusting me to read your toes. And when I'm looking at your toes, there are a few messages that are coming through really loud and clear. And I appreciate the information that you gave me about the split toenail that you've got going on your right foot. Obviously, with your beautiful toenail polish, I would not have uh, seen that. However, some of the other things that your toes are saying, I think the split is like one of those indicators where it's a big flashing sign to you. And we're going to talk more about what that is. Um, so, your right foot is how you move through the world, how people experience you, and the way that you relate in the three-dimensional world that we live in. The left foot is internal. It's your internal dialogue, your internal relationship with self, and your connection with spirit. And so as I look at your toes, the very first thing that I notice are the first two toes on both foot, and a lot of things to do with those. So let's start with the big toes. So you can see both of the big toes. You have some grounding. Grounding is probably something that you've been told you need to do more of, or you felt like you need to be more grounded. You've got a lot of air going on, and we see this in your natal chart as well. And how I'm seeing that air so that you can track your own toes. It's really important to me that when I'm doing one of these readings that I give you enough education and information that you can then look at your own toes so you can monitor your own growth. I'm always happy and I love my repeat clients. And if you never come back and see me again or another toe reader, I want you to be able to know how to do this so that you can look at your own toes. So this sign where you're just a little bit not grounded is up here in the top of the toe. So if you look at this first toe on both sides, you touch the ground here, but then it lifts off. Now, a little bit of an upturn to the toes indicates some optimism. I can tell by your big toes that you have hope, that you are an optimist. Even if there was a scale from pessimism to optimism, you lean towards the optimism side because of that cute little upturn of those toes. Now, it's not just the nails, though, that are a little bit upturned. It's also the toe itself. So when you do your grounding exercises, make sure that you come down and you ground. And sometimes we think about just rooting from our root chakra, which is super important. Our root chakra is our connection with the earth. There's even been, I've read some articles and an increasing number of them about how people are, intuitives are sensing that the root chakra is actually down in the ground. I have a different opinion about that. I still think that the root chakra sits in the base of our torso, in the perineum area, and I think that we have an earth chakra below our feet. Nevertheless, we want to ground all the way down through our legs, into our ankles, into our feet, into our toes, because our toes are the connection, energetic connection points to the earth. And then we have all those connection points through our feet that keep us grounded. So doing grounding exercises is very important for you, because otherwise I'm sure you've got lots of ideas. You might be scattered, have a challenge focusing, or have been accused of being distracted easily. So that grounding is really going to help with that. Then, and I'm going to come back to splitting here in a few minutes, but then we've got this beautiful space, this queen's toe, as I call it, or the leadership toe, where you can stand independently. So you are an Aquarius sun, which Aquarians are unique. They love to be revolutionary. They're okay standing on their own. So we'll talk more about your chart in just a few minutes, but just understand that your toes and your birth chart are both showing this independent spirit you have. with this space here and this leadership ability at a very, very high level. That little space between your toes is also the channel of intuition. And so the way that this first toe on both feet is leaning over or bending over, it's closing off that intuitive channel. And so I want you to imagine if you were to gently push on the protrusion right here and the top of the foot and just push that. You've got a real nice straight second toe. And so if it stayed where it was, which would be what we would hope, and then this toe moved, you would have this really nice space, which would dramatically, even exponentially increase your intuitive skills, your ability to, and even desire to lead and stand on your own and really lead the revolution that you were born to lead, no matter what that looks like. So imagine that for both toes. And then we have the second toe here. The second toe is the air toe or the communication expression toe. Aquarius is an air sign in the zodiac. So you've got this air showing up here in your big toes and in some of your other toes that aren't quite touching the ground, including your cute little pinky toes. And then this toe is slightly longer, or at least at the very same length as your big toe. So this indicates that communication and expression are high value to you. My guess is that your ideas, you're probably 2 steps ahead of people in any given room. And when somebody's talking to you, you're already 2 steps ahead in your mind. And so I'm sure you've experienced some criticism, experienced criticism, possibly even rejection from your wild ideas. How Aquarian of you to have these wild and revolutionary ideas, all this expression, this air energy that you carry in your body and in your toes. We're going to come back to some of the blocked energy that you're having here in the toes, but I wanted to address those things because one of the biggest blocks you have, one of the biggest things that is holding you back are how these protrusions are here, and then how the toe bends this way. And this is on both toes, your life path toe and your spirit path toe. These are actually very connected for you in the way that you are literally bending to the will of someone else, bending over backwards to please, compromising yourself to keep the peace or not rock the boat or whatever this looks like. People pleasing is what I'm talking about. And the fact that in your right toe, you are experiencing that split, that is communicating to you that it is time to change. That is the need is to change. So just a second. For some reason, I forgot when you were born. 1974. Yeah, I knew that you were very, that you were in the early 70s. And so this is also astrologically, you are experiencing a Chiron return. You've gone through the Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto aspects of middle age. That's an entirely other reading that I would love to do if you are open to that. But it's a midlife reading tracking these astrological changes that bring about what we commonly call in our culture the midlife crisis, which is only a crisis because other people view it as a crisis. It can feel like a crisis within us because we start to stand more alone. We change. These things in midlife change us. And in your midlife, especially where you said it happened to you 3 years ago, that would have likely been right at your Uranus opposition in your birth chart. If I'm speaking things that you don't understand, don't worry about it. I'm going to explain a little bit more about this in your birth chart. And we have our one-on-one meeting when we can talk more about this. But when Uranus squares Uranus, so let's actually skip over to this. Don't be alarmed by the white here in your nails. When I remove the background in my program, it just took that off too. It doesn't mean anything. So your Uranus in your chart is down here in the sign of Libra. And it is, right now, Uranus is here in Taurus. So yes, especially where you've got this wide opposition between your Chiron and your Uranus. You are 100% here on this planet to make a big, big difference. Uranus is also the planetary ruler of your sun sign of Aquarius. Saturn is the traditional, and Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So you did indeed, around the same time as Chiron entered Aries, which is where your Chiron is located, and that is all about our wounds. So I know I just probably, if you don't speak the language of astrology, no worries. What I'm saying is 3 years ago, when you damaged your toe, and in my world, everything means something, it was a big wake-up call to you. You were going through some midlife transitions, midlife awakening, and then your toes are telling you, stop people-pleasing. It's time for you to stand on your own. Like the Aquarian leader, you were born to be the leader that we see here in your toes. And this is in your life path where it's really pushing you, and in your spirit path. So my question for you is, what does this look like? How has this shown up? And what would you like to see that is different? I encourage you to journal about those before we meet together in 3 days. Journal about those 3 questions, because not only are your toes showing it here, but you got a big wake-up call here. Not only are your planets showing it, but you're really being screamed at to make this change so that you can grow into, evolve into the purpose and the path that you are here for. That was a lot. I realize that was a lot, but that was big, big stuff. Now, one of the things that you can do to move the energy along, we never want to force the energy. We want to just gently move the energy, is gently pressing on the protrusion of each of those toes. If I was on the left foot, I would be gently pushing on the protrusion on the outside of that foot and gently pushing the other way on the top of that toe, and even rubbing along the inside of that toe and just gently pushing it. Time tracks in the nails. And so you're going to start to see this when you start to get back on track. The nails are what's going to move first. They're going to straighten up. So your big toes, because my guess is, well, it's not a guess. I can see it in your toes. Like I said earlier, your revolutionary ideas, your leadership, your standing alone, your quick thinking, they have not always been appreciated. In fact, my guess is that it was often suppressed, possibly even just like squished out of you. Our culture is created around those principles where people that have an open throat chakra, your second toes, people that are in leadership, especially women, people who have revolutionary ideas, especially women, like this is dangerous, and I put that in air quotes, this is dangerous to a culture and a society that values conformity. And we like to think in our culture that we're all about individualism, and we are, as long as it fits very nice and neat within a nice little box, whatever box we happen to have been born into, and then whatever boxes we adopted. You have outgrown your container. If you do any kind of gardening and you have a plant that's in a container, and it gets root bound and it can't grow anymore, it's stuck, it's withering, you're at a critical point in this midlife of yours. And I want you to just think about the women that you know that get to this point, and there's the crossroads. And some women and men, I just happen to see this in a more, and maybe it's because I do identify as a woman, but I just see this more in women. You see women who get to 50 years old, and you see ones that blossom. They get a new career. They learn new skills. They really embrace being a grandmother. They start to travel. They read new and interesting books, but they start to thrive in the second half of their life. And yes, at 50, I believe that's where the second half of our life starts. The human body can live to be 140. It's just all the stuff around us that makes us die earlier. Anyways, I digress because I got a lot of air in my chart too. But you see women that do that, and you see women that it's too scary. They don't know how, they don't have the support, they don't feel like they have permission, or they just continue to bend to the will of others and what others expect of them. And they literally wither and give up, and they become walking shells. And of course, they have moments of joy, but largely they feel unfulfilled in their life. My guess is that from what I know about you, from the brief interaction that we had, from the place that we met, and from looking at your toes and your chart, that you definitely want to be on the path of somebody who thrives in the second half of their life. 50 is the rebirth. 50 is the rebirth of you. And you've got a couple of years to stop people pleasing, to know who you truly are and what your gifts and talents are. Embrace and embody those, and determine, what does the rest of your life look like? When we look at your second toe here on the left foot, you can see, just for context purposes, if we look at these two toes, I'd be curious to know what goes on in your head. What do you say to yourself? Do you say to yourself things that you would never say to another human being? That's what this toe is showing. There's a lot of blocked energy in it. It's pointed down. So back to that crossroads. In women that choose not to take the opportunity that is offered to them astrologically and culturally even, I see their toes start to point down, like this one's starting to do here. Okay? In the outside world and in the way that you are outside, my guess is that what happens inside your head is very different than how people experience being with you. You're probably highly encouraging, supportive, and truly desire great things for people, and you have hope. And then in your own life, in your own mind, and in your own body, you're pointing downward a little bit. Become aware of what's your mental chatter, what's going on in your mind, what are you saying to yourself. This would be another ideal toe to exercise a little bit, and this would be just some massage. So you can hold the toe at the bottom and gently massage in an upward and outward motion, or you can take your fingers underneath and just rub along the top of that toe, or whatever feels comfortable. Like, I'm giving you some techniques, but at the end of the day, you are your own authority. You can do what feels right for you. You are a highly intuitive person. Do what feels right for you with the intention of releasing the energy. And so as you massage that toe, here's your mantra and your question. I speak kind, encouraging, and truthful words to myself. So this is the goal. This is the affirmation. And then we ask the question, what am I saying to myself? Help me become aware of my mental chatter. And then when we change that, you might, be 50 miles down the road of the self-beratement that you've just put yourself through. And at that, wherever that is, you turn around and you come back. Stop. I don't do that anymore. And you say your affirmations instead. I speak kind, encouraging, and truthful words to myself. And then you come back. And eventually, it's just like changing the course of a river, right? This river, this energy, it's got a very clear pattern that it's been following for a long time. And now you're asking that river to change courses, and it will, through constant coming back. And then after a while, you won't even go down that road because you trained yourself to stop. It is a process, but I have seen it happen in as little as 60 consistent days of doing that exercise. All right, let's talk about your action toes. These are your action toes, and you are a person of action. These toes are associated here with the planet of Mars, which in your chart is, okay, yeah, right here in Taurus. 15 degrees in Taurus is where your Mars is. So your actions, despite all the air, may have sometimes felt slow to you. Do you get frustrated with yourself? Is that part of this internal dialogue? Or slow to others? Being able to go at your own pace is very important to you, Aquarius girl. Very important to you. Honor yourself. You get to go at your own pace. And communication is your superpower. Communication is your superpower. Relationships are your superpower. And so finding where your actions fit in within those top values of connection, communication, and relationships. How does action work in with those? What are your primary love languages? The love languages, for a refresher, are physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, and receiving gifts. Of course, there's a wide range around each of those, but what is your love language? How do you like to receive love? And what is the love language of those that you want to share love with? Your partner, your children, your friends, your work colleagues, all of these things. How does the action fit in within these two high values to you? And then don't run faster than you need to. You don't have to take action that you don't want to or that don't fit within those values. How many times a day do you say, I have to, I need to, I've got to, and you feel this obligation energy to doing that? Really sink into that and align your actions accordingly. These toes could use just a little bit of massage because there is some blocked energy in there. And so the mantra to say to yourself while you're massaging those action toes would be, what is my most aligned action right now? What actions do I love to take that fit within my values? And then with the intention of having those things float to the surface while you release blocks, and the idea that your value is somehow tied to how much you can produce and how fast you can move and what actions you get done and what happens on your to-do list. Your value has absolutely nothing to do with that at all. All right, let's talk about these relationship toes. I really love your relationship toes. There's some blocked energy. Your relationship toes and your prosperity trust toes, those tend to be kind of the karmic toes. We bring in a lot of generational baggage to this lifetime and it shows up in these toes. Relationships are clearly very important to you. And I can tell this because of the straightness of these nails, how the nail, you've got a very nice nail bed on that. And those nails are mostly pointing straight forward. Really massage those toes. And the mantra to say with this, because the purpose is to release the blocked energy, and the mantra would be that I speak the love languages of those that I love. Speaking the language has to do with this air toe, this communication expression toe. I speak the love language of those that I love. I'm getting more proficient at speaking the love language of those I love. Try that one on, see if that one fits better. I know how to ask for the kind of love that I want to receive. And then getting clear about, how do you want to receive love? What does that look like for you? You give, give, give. And that's beautiful. It's time to receive. Just like these are the intuitive channels, these are also the reception channels. And when they're closed off, we don't receive. So we give, 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 because we've been trained in our culture that to give is better than to receive. And yet, if we give, 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 and we never receive, one, we don't allow others the opportunity to give to us and have their gift be received by us. And two, you can give, but eventually the well goes dry if you're never receiving. Please allow yourself to receive. That's going to really up-level all of your relationships. You lean on your actions. You can see that with a slight bend of the toe on your actions. Or value having to do with productivity. That sounds like the factory model of the Industrial Revolution that we just don't buy into anymore. It's time to move past that as the collective. And so that would be another thing as you rub these toes, especially this one having to do with yourself, that your value is inherent. And your actions are a reflection of you, not you being a reflection of your actions. Let me clarify that just a little bit. Your actions come from your heart. They're not out here and give you value. You give value to your actions. That's a better way to communicate that. Okay, let's talk about these air toes. Let's talk about these earth toes that are flying in the air just a little bit. These are your connection points to the earth. So as you do that grounding exercise through your toes, like I talked about at the beginning of this, have it come all the way down into those pinky toes, down, down, down into the earth, connecting to the earth. These are our trust and our prosperity toes. So you've got some blocked energy, especially in your right foot. So really think about, what does prosperity look like for you, and are you receiving it or are you blocking it? Actually, right now you're blocking much of the prosperity that could come to you because you've got all this blocked energy in this toe. You've got it in this toe as well. And so really taking and massaging those toes with the mantra, I am worthy to receive. My value and my ability to, my value and my worthiness to receive prosperity is inherent and my birthright. Try those on, and then grounding those earth toes. Let's go to your chart. When we look at your chart, Sun Aquarius, and your sun here in Aquarius in the 8th house, you are absolutely here to transform and to revolutionize. The 8th house is about transformation. Aquarius is about revolution and evolution. And so your sun is your ego. It's who you are. It's here in the 8th house, which again, as I told you, is about transformation and rebirth. That's the word that's coming to me. Rebirth. You have the opportunity to rebirth yourself. I invite you to consider that your 50th birthday is your rebirthing party. And the next couple of years that you have, the next year, the next year and a bit that you have is the initiation period. Like the butterfly coming out of its cocoon or the chick breaking out of the egg. If you don't go through, if these animals don't go through that process, they can't thrive in their rebirth as moving from a chicken and egg to a chicken, or I'm loving the analogy of the cocoon. So you are in a cocoon, you've been in a cocoon, incubating. Give yourself that time and space to incubate. And then the next year and a couple of months is your opportunity to start to emerge from the cocoon and be reborn on your 50th birthday, on your 50th solar return right here in Aquarius. Beautiful. You get to evolve. You get to transform. You've also got Aquarius and Mercury. You've got Jupiter and Mercury here in Aquarius. And Jupiter is the expander. It's the planet of joy. You're here to experience joy in the revolution, the evolution, and the change making. You're a game changer for yourself and clearing generational patterns from the past, and a game changer for the future in clearing things out for your children. And I love how this shows up here, right here in these toes, like we very first talked about. And then Mercury is the planet of communication and expression. Mercury is the ruler of this second toe. It's also in Aquarius. You love to talk about intellectual topics, about ideas, about philosophies. Continue to do that and find your circle of people that love and appreciate that about you and want to participate in that with you. Okay, I'm just going to move around the chart this way for now. Your midheaven is here in Pisces. Your midheaven is the direction, if you will. You see the arrow here, the direction of where you're going in this lifetime. Pisces is a very spiritual sign. It is the spiritual sign. This also has to do with career and how you're showing up in the world. How you're expressing is in this spiritual realm, be that spiritual healing or some kind of spiritual revolution, a breaking away from dogma. These are the things that are coming to me with this midheaven that you have in Pisces. Chiron is the wounded healer in Greek mythology. If you Google him, you can read the stories about how he has birth wounds, betrayal, abandonment wounds. He is also physically wounded. And as such, with these wounds on all the levels, he becomes the ultimate healer, the trainer of heroes. And this is about our wounds. As Gen Xers, which I am one, I was born in 72, so I know exactly how this wound shows up for me, and I see it in the Gen X. Gen X is the forgotten generation. Gen X is the smallest generation. Gen X is the one that we came in and were told we could have it all. Everything, the entire universe was open to us. Think about Murphy Brown. Watching that show, single mom, powerful career woman who really seems to have it all and can do it all on her own. Okay, so our wound in Aries is about the being, about the I am. So this question of wondering who you are, it doesn't surprise me at all that your left foot has a little bit more blocked energy in it than your right foot. This is about you. This is about who you are. It doesn't surprise me that your toes bend this way, that you bend and conform, because our generation with our wound in Chiron, this is our wound. And we know how it feels, and we may or may not fully heal it for ourselves. And we can heal it and help and guide others for healing it in themselves. It is the first wound, Chiron in Aries, and the first wound is I am. It's the separation from source. It's the duality. And Chiron entered Aries in 2018 for the first time again in 50 years, and did a little dance here between Aries and Chiron. So gosh, he went right over here over your midheaven. Perfect for all the midlife stuff that you've been going through for the last few years. And there he is. And right now, honestly, he's just kind of sitting in this area. So you're feeling this wounding and that split in your toe. Ooh, what a beautiful invitation to find who you are, who you stand for, and how to stand on your own. All right, we move over here to your moon in Taurus, which is right here next to your, I'm not right next to it, but in the same sign and in the same 11th house as your, one other thing, with Chiron here in your 10th house, even though it's in Aries, it's in your 10th house, which has a lot to do with career and how you are in the world, how you're showing up. First toes. All right, your moon in Taurus and your Mars in Taurus. We've already talked a lot about your Mars in Taurus. Mars doesn't love to be in Taurus. Mars likes to move fast, and Taurus is a slow sign. Taurus, think about, do you remember the cartoon Ferdinand the Bull, who loved to sit under the tree smelling the flowers? That's Taurus. Taurus isn't a bull in a china closet. Taurus is a peace-loving, nature-loving, just wants to do their thing. Taurus is also a sign of prosperity. It is your values. So we talked about discovering your values. So your moon, these are your non-negotiable needs. Having self-care, feeling comfort, having some of the better things in life. Like, these are non-negotiable needs. Now you get to determine what that looks like depending on your, your material means, which with your moon in Taurus, you've really got a lot of potential there, especially as you fulfill your life purpose. But these are non-negotiable needs. You cannot thrive without some of these things. And you've been living, as we can see in the toes, without these things. But thriving is not what's going to happen if you don't have those things. And then we've already talked a lot about Mars here in your 11th house which is in Taurus. All right. We have Saturn right here in your 12th house and in the sign of Gemini, and he was retrograde. So Saturn does not love to be in Gemini. Saturn is the restrictor. Saturn is structure. Saturn is a taskmaster, the time lord. Now, Saturn is these things because he wants us to succeed. Saturn wants us to succeed. He's strict because he wants us to succeed. And this is your 12th house. And what's in your 12th house is what you're here to transform. So what structures, what hierarchies, what Saturn is the ruler of the patriarchy. How has that shown up for you? You're here to transform it, Aquarius girl. You're here to transform it. All right, your rising sign is in Cancer. Cancer, the universal mother, the moon child. The moon is the ruler of Cancer. And so really leaning into that, you create safe spaces for people. Connection here in your 4th toe. Connection is super important to you. Creating safe communities. Now think about Cancer, the crab. Okay, Cancer, the crab scoots sideways, just like you've been doing to avoid conflict. But if provoked, Cancer's got those pincers. Okay, don't be afraid to use those pincers. Who belongs in your life and who doesn't? What belongs in your life and what doesn't? It's time to create a safe container for yourself. And then the people who want to play with you are going to feel safe with you. As long as you have people that don't belong with you, you cannot fulfill your highest and greatest potential. Okay, then we go down here to the beautiful sign of Libra. In the sign of Libra, you have your in the 5th house and 4th house. I'm not going to talk too much about those here. We're just going to talk about the zodiac sign. In the sign of Libra, you have Uranus, which is the modern day ruler of Aquarius, about transforming. And so I am going to talk about it. The fifth house is the house of play, the house of pleasure, the house of sensuality, the house of shining brightly. You're here to transform it. You're here to revolutionize it. You're here to expect unexpected things to happen in this way. Okay? Pluto is the transformer, also in Libra. So this is a wide conjunction. Pluto's at the beginning, Uranus is at the end, but nevertheless, all here to help you bring the balance, the harmony, and the beauty. And I love that your part of fortune, which is right here, is right there, because that is your destiny. That's if you allow the energy to flow, you are going to bring balance, beauty, harmony, not through people pleasing, but through being the revolutionary leader you were born to be. Just moving up here into Sagittarius and the sixth house. This is your north node. This is the area to stretch into. Sagittarius is about expansion and philosophy and open-mindedness. That's the shadow sides. That's the light sides. The shadow sides are rigidity and philosophy, prejudice and judgment. So leaning into your north node here, which is where you are moving in for this lifetime, the stretchy zone where we're stretching into. You've got your Venus here, same house as your sun, and in the sign of Capricorn. So Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. And Capricorn is the opposite side of Gemini, where your Cancer is. And I love that we're talking about all these things. So, like I said, your north node here is where we're stretching into. Your part of fortune is where you naturally will move with the energy. Here on this polarity between 28 degrees Gemini and 29 degrees Capricorn, you are here to revolutionize relationships, connection, the way that we view reciprocity. And this shows up in these straight relationship toes as well as in these life path toes. Is there anything else? That's it for now. So just to recap, please do these exercises. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Almost. It will come when I sneeze, yawn, or burp. It's energy releasing, which tells me that there's already energy moving. If we would have taken a picture of your toes a couple of weeks ago, they would have already started shifting. In a couple of weeks, they're already going to shift. Take pictures. Be aware. You know what's going on here. Take time for yourself, for self-care, Moon in Taurus. Your moon's your emotional needs, to massage your feet. Soak your feet in some earth, like sand. Can you go burrow your feet into some sand? That would be really, really nice for you with some warmth. Massaging your toes with those mantras. I can't wait to talk to you soon, and let me know if you have any questions between now and then. Bye.